And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
This is your RBLR Rays podcast. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this fine Saturday where we're going to have two Rays baseball games today, which is doubly exciting. And in the spirit of having double baseball, we have the double in the amount of hosts that we normally have. So welcome in all of our guest stars here. You guys want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Sure, Zach, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so I'm Zach. I was gonna say I'm Zach. I'm sure some of you guys might remember me. I was a host here for a little while before I went over to the Bucks, but man, I'm happy to be here. Back to this early schedule. It's exciting.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? I'm Carter. I'm also from the Bucks. I've been on this show before, but I'm really happy to be back. And I love the doubleheader inclusion. You know, let's play two Ernie Banks style. So I'm definitely hyped for the games today. Definitely excited to have baseball back because, man, even those like 2 or 3 days during the All-Star break were just depressing. Nothing to watch.
I know.
So happy to be here.
Absolutely, and as the 27th man being called up for this doubleheader, I'm Pat Davenport. You can catch me writing for RBLR more than talking most of the time, but I'm really excited to be here on the show for the first time.
Yeah, really excited to have you, Pat. I've been really enjoying your articles over the last couple of weeks, so it's really cool to have you on the show here with us. We're really happy to have you. And if you'd like to get more of all of these people, please like, subscribe, share all of our content. We're on all of our Twitter handles are down there. Obviously, RBLR Sports on Twitter, all the socials. We're on all the major streaming platforms as well. Please don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe, all that, because we would love to continue to bring you more of this content. And speaking of content, there wasn't a whole lot of it this last week from a Rays perspective, but there was 2 days of peak Rays content in the middle there with the All-Star game and the home run derby, which were absolutely fantastic from a Rays perspective. There was a lot. I noticed a lot of social media chatter that the Rays made their mark on All-Star weekend just because of the amazing performances of Yandy and Randy. Just Randy at the home run derby, Yandy leading off the All-Star game with the first getting the scoring started for the American League. Even though they lost that game, Yandy did everything he could to make sure that did not happen. So it's just just super fun. I mean, you can't get any better than watching Randy Arozarena go toe for toe with Julio Rodriguez in the final. I mean, come on. I mean, that was just beautiful stuff watching that. So what were you guys' thoughts of the All-Star weekend home run derby?
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. Also, shout out MLB The Show. I got a 99 overall Yandy and Randy card, so that's no, it was awesome. Honestly, I feel like Yandy probably would have won MVP if they would have stuck to that game out.
I know.
It would have been cool to see that. I know Crawford. I think Crawford won it in 2009, so it would have been cool to see the second Rays MVP. But you know, hey, it was still a blast. Randy put on a show as he always does. Vladdy just pulled it out at the end, but yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that hurt the most is that we lost to a Toronto player, but at the end of the day, he did show out, and I think that it did bring some eyes to Tampa, which is something that cannot be bad for Tampa. The All-Star game kind of had a sour taste in my mouth when they were all introduced, and we just skipped right over Tampa like it doesn't exist. But is there anything more Tampa than that? Like, don't worry about him, but then he comes out and just rips a shot to open the scoring. And I think up until like the third or fourth inning, there was 2 hits for the American League, and they were Randy and Yandy. So it's just it just kind of showed, like, you know what? We don't need to be introduced. We're here, and we're going to be here for a while, so screw it.
Yeah, to your point, Zach, I think this was maybe the best representation the Rays could have had in the All-Star weekend because Randy showed up, big moment, got to cross his arms at least like 10 times, and he just don't bet against him when the spotlight's all on him. So I think, that 30-second bonus time in the home run derby, I'm like, what if he managed to get a 440-foot shot somewhere? But that was awesome. And then Yandy, he's used to doing this now. He's used to just turning up, hitting line drives over the fence, and everyone else is used to just putting up excellent seasons in the background. So it's the most on-brand Rays All-Star weekend we probably could have got.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was wildly entertaining. I mean, when I saw Vladdy's round and we went to Randy, I was like, I think he's got a really good shot. And I'll be honest with you guys, when even Neil Young had 30 seconds of bonus time, when he went to the bonus time, I was like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna come out of the last minute. He's gonna knock one out. He just couldn't do it. But you know what? It was like, I don't think we could have asked for anything more. It was so much fun. I am so unsurprised that the Rays got snubbed for their opening. Was it last year they mispronounced like half the Rays players' names? It's like, come on, we can't get a pronunciation guide. We can't get a memo that the Rays All-Stars are coming out, which, by the way, the two players that were missed were potentially a, Cy Young candidate and a MVP candidate who just somehow we forgot about him. I guess it's fine. We just forgot about him. It's okay. It's all cool. Speaking of Shane, some cool news is that he does seem to be back on track to start. I believe Sunday he's back on track to start. So I'll throw that in there. We got that news, I think, yesterday. And so he seems to be fully recovered from that. So for any people that are detracting what Shane is going to do in the second half, he'll be back. He's ready to go. So that'll be good to see. We have had quite the first half for the Rays, kind of culminating in that All-Star game, seeing all the talent we've had on display from, both sides of the ball. As we are reaching the halfway point, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on your sort of perception of the first half of the season. A lot has happened. We've kind of come through some highs and lows to the beginning of the season. So just give me some of your thoughts on what the first half of the season has looked like to you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great, obviously amazing start, best start in franchise history, no doubt about it. Can't take away from that. It was a bit tough to end the first half the way they did, losing 7 straight, and then but they put an exclamation point on it with a really good win to go into it. I just think the pitching woes are really, really gonna be tough. Not even necessarily poor performance, just injuries keep piling up. I mean, if one more starter goes down, and I think the whole bridge just kind of collapses, it's going to be tough to see. So we'll see how they do at the trade deadline. The Rays front office always making weird moves that don't make any sense on the surface. The Ben Gamble for cash considerations move, but I've heard cash considerations is a hot prospect. So, we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, no, they'll certainly do something. They're not going to just sit there on their hands. It may not be the move that anyone expects because, like I said, it's the Rays front office, but they'll do something. So I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of nailed it on the head. The first half of the first quarter of the season was great, and then we started kind of getting into the second quarter of the season, and it just kind of made us look more what's the word I'm looking for? More human. Because before that we looked unstoppable. Like we looked like we were going to have the best season that any team has ever had. And it just kind of, I know for me, got my hopes up. I was like, oh my God, this team we're winning the World Series without a doubt. Like there's not even a challenge to us. And then we lose Rasmussen and Springs and it was like, oh, okay, well, let's hold back a little bit. And then our offense kind of took a little bit of a slump. And I say little because it's still there. It's just not as potent as it was in the first quarter. So I think that the trade deadline is going to be important for us to continue the success into the next half of the season because, I mean, without being negative, we need help, especially in the pitching department. So that's kind of my take on the first half.
Yeah, it's been funny old half of a season because usually with the Rays and even coming into this season, I was like, okay, the Rays are going to live on their pitching and hopefully the offense does enough, right? That's kind of what we did last year. It's kind of what we've done most of our successful seasons, right? Where the pitching carries. This year it's been all the offense. We're like, we're going to score runs. Can we rely on our bullpen to keep a lead? Can our starting pitching stay healthy? So it's been really strange that it's kind of been a flip of expectations. And you're all absolutely right that I think pitching is the need going into the trade deadline. Definitely some inning eaters because Rasmussen and Springs, oh my gosh, I'm so bummed that Rasmussen's not coming back this season. And even the likes of Josh Fleming not being there to just eat innings is really taking a toll. And now we're looking at, if another guy goes down, Elvin Rodriguez is off to Japan. Like, who are we looking at now? The number 9 option to open the season is probably the next man up, which is a bit grim. But I'm just, please, no more injuries, and we should be okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the testament to the quality of this Rays team and how well it's been constructed is, despite the fact that we are missing 2/3, you could maybe say 2-3 thirds of our 2-3, maybe a third to 2/3 of our starting rotation to what we wanted to begin the season. Tyler's been back now, so it's more like 1/3 because he's been back now. Despite all of that, we are still on pace for the best record in franchise history. So despite the injuries, despite the struggles of the bullpen, which have been a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit ballyhooed. It was one bad month, and we've been really not as bad since then. I mean, and there's examples where the bullpen has failed, but I think the majority of the failure was in one particular month. And all that said, we're still on pace for the best record in Rays history, and we're still leading the division. The Orioles are sort of creeping up on us, but honestly, that division is going to come down to the games played against the division. We're going to play the Orioles. We're going to play the Yankees. We're going to play the Blue Jays. Those are the games that's going to matter to decide that division. So I'm not even really worried about the standings, because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who wins those series. And I have every confidence the Rays will. So I have a lot of faith in this team to go into the second half. So Pat, can you give me kind of what do you think would be your expectations for the second half of the season?
Sure. Yeah, I think for the second half, I think it's going to be good. I think we're going to do well. I think we needed that All-Star break like anything, because the team was tired heading into the All-Star break. That 7-game losing streak was a big illustration of that. But the talent is already there, really. The only concern is if an injury happens, we need a bit more depth. So it's just about, I don't think we need to go out and get a superstar. We just need to get someone who's dependable, someone that we know is going to be there, going to just provide quality innings or quality at-bats, and we're good to go. I think the division is very much in play. I think I'm confident, touching wood, about the division. And now I'm just like, how can we maximize our odds for a potential best of 5?
Yeah, I mean, like Pat said, I think there's no reason not to be confident about the second half. Even though that tumultuous ending to it, it still was an amazing first half. And like you said, the talent's there. It's a ridiculously good lineup. I think on MLB Network the other day, they said the Rays had a super team, and I don't know if I'd go that far, but they're really, really good. So it's fun to watch them. It's fun to watch them go out there and play. So I have a lot of high hopes, but I'm also, like Pat said, an injury or two here or there could really kind of, I don't want to say derail the season. That's dramatic, but it could definitely put a dampen on things for sure.
I don't think saying derail the season is dramatic. I think it's almost kind of realistic, because we honestly are one pitching injury away from it being kind of all hands on deck, 911, we got an emergency kind of a deal. But realistically, the second half of the year, like, I don't see us going under 500. I don't see us going anything below, 10 games below or 10 games above 500. I think that's where I would feel comfortable if we can stay 10 games above 500 for the second half of the season. I feel confident in our ability to win the division and put on a show, especially later on into October. So I think it shows a lot of what we did in the first half with having one of the hardest schedules as far as travel-wise and just the most games before an all-star break. So I think that we're going to have a lot easier time in the second half, not to mention, it's going to suck for us because we're not going to have as many games to watch. But, at the end of the day, I'd rather them stay healthy and stay rested for the important parts of the season, which, let's be honest, the regular season's important, but none of us really care what happens in the regular season as long as we make it to the playoffs. So I think that it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. If I'm being completely open with you guys, we just need Brandon Lau to not suck. But I'm just kidding. I had to say it because I see Zach
get it in there.
Yeah, Zach and Ben commenting on it all the time. So I had to throw it out there. I do love me some Brandon Lau though.
Yeah, and I mean, the point about Brandon Lau is actually a good one to me, because I think it just shows you how much better this Rays team can continue to be, because they did what they did the majority of the first half without arguably their most the hitter who has accomplished the most in a season that we've seen full before.
Yeah, their most prolific hitter.
The most prolific hitter that we have on this team, because there's no one else on this team yet that has hit 39 home runs and 99 RBIs in a season. There's no one else on this team that's done that, and they did all that they did without that player in the first half. So even if he is 70% of what he would be the second half, it will be a massive improvement on what is already a great offense, and I think he could be better than that. And when you look at the pitching, I understand exactly what you guys are saying, because when you look at our postseason rotation right now, we're kind of set up perfectly, because you have Shane, Zach, and Tyler set to go for kind of your postseason rotation. If you lose one of them, you put in a tough spot. At the same time, though, I would say almost every single team in baseball, if they lose one of their top line starters, is going to be put in a bad spot. Like if Rodon goes back down for the Yankees, they're hurting, and more than they already are. Like most teams are going to struggle with that. This has been more accentuated by the fact that the Yankees had honestly a 1-5 that was incredibly strong, and they've lost 2 of those 5. So it's now we're looking at only having 3 really strong starters. So the idea of adding bulk pitching to help in the second half, I think is exactly what we're going to see. I think it's sort of a no-brainer to do that, to give us a little bit more support, so we have just a little bit more innings to be 8. Because the truth is, once we get to the postseason, we have the pitching, we have the guys who can go out there and get us the innings we need as starters. And then a lot of the guys who are being used as starters right now could slide into bullpen roles and be really excellent middle relief guys or closers or whatever we might need for them during the postseason. I think we're really well set up for the postseason. We just got to get there, and I have no doubt that we are going to get there. One of the things that Ben has talked about a lot, will speak for him since he's not here today, is the struggle the Rays have had with the start times of the games not being the same in a stretch, which doesn't seem like a lot, but like I know for me, like if I have to go to work at a different time every single day of the week, it messes my whole schedule up. It messes my brain up. It messes my flow up. And I've gotten recently at my job, I now start going to work every single day at the same time. It makes a huge difference in my productivity, because I kind of can get into that rhythm. From the Rays perspective, they've not really been able to do that for a lot of the season, and they're going to get some more of that in the second half. The first like 2 weeks of the season, they kind of get thrown around a little bit again, but after that, they start to let themselves get into a little bit more of a rhythm, which I think will really help them. So, while all of that I think will help, certainly I do think there is some need for some help. Now, there is one version of help that people seem to be throwing out a lot that I think is not going to happen. But Carter, I would love to hear your thoughts on Shohei Ohtani to the Rays, because everybody seems to want to talk about it. So what are your thoughts on the concept of the best player in baseball coming to the best team in baseball?
I love Shohei. I'm a huge fan. I don't think anyone can say anything negative about him. So what I'm about to say is going to sound bad, but if I'm an MLB team right now, I can't trade for Shohei Ohtani. He just costs too much, and that includes the Rays. It's asinine to think about trading, Curtis Mead, Junior Caminero, and you could just go down the list of really amazing prospects, all for maybe half a season of a guy, because the Rays aren't giving him 600 or 700 million, and rightfully so. He's going to earn that somewhere else, and good for him. But I'm not super enthused about it just from an organizational perspective. That's not what the Rays do. But hey, it's fun to talk about, because thinking about Shohei Ohtani in a Rays uniform is just super fun. Like, let's be honest. The Rays have never had a guy of that caliber. The fan base would literally earn a whole country. Like Japan would just be Rays fans, and that would be so much fun. So again, I hate to poo-poo on it, because like I said, it's super fun to think about, but unfortunately I'm not sure of the realistic aspects of it. But, if it happens, awesome. I would love to be wrong. That's my favorite thing, is being wrong. So if Shohei shows up, hey, hell yeah, put him in that 4 spot, put him in the 4 hole of the rotation or whatever. It'd be a lot of fun, but we'll see.
I don't enjoy being wrong, so I'm gonna say it should happen, and it's gonna happen. Realistically, it's probably not, but I want to be on a train that says it's going to happen in case it does, because I feel like there's fewer people on that train right now. I'm kind of the mindset that we are such a deep team and such a deep farm system that I don't think there's an amount that we can give up that's going to completely diminish what we have. And I think that we have some of the best prospects to trade for. Even if it is just a half a year, I mean, he is going to make a difference. I think with him on our team, we become World Series favorites, which I know we're already kind of up there right now. But I think with him on our team, it elevates us that much. It's a power bat that we can use. I don't think we need a power bat, but I think that it would be nice to have a power bat. And I think he slots in as our first or second best pitcher already. So I'm not going to take that away from McClanahan. I think McClanahan is a great pitcher. But, I mean, Ohtani is a different – I mean, he's generational, man. He has the potential to be one of the best baseball players in history, not just of his time, but of ever. So I think even if it is just a half a season, the eyes that it would get to Tampa would be insane. The potential wins that it could get us, and you never know. Maybe they sign him for a big contract. Like, I know that's not likely. I know it's not going to happen, but we've offered big money to other people before.
Yeah, I mean, the Rays have always been kind of interested in Ohtani. I remember they were super interested and came quite close to signing him. If I remember when he first came over from Japan, they were in like the final 3 teams or something like that, but he wanted to be closer to the Pacific. And I've heard they've been, dipping their toes into the Angels front office a couple of times about him. And I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the Rays they don't like going for rentals too often, especially if they're expensive ones. They may still feel burned by the Nelson Cruz trade, which is the one time they did go for the rental that made sense. But if they do go for it and Stu Sternberg doesn't find $500 million at the back of the couch, then it would still be, I'm just imagining, I want Kevin Cash to annoy everyone by using Shohei Ohtani in a weird way that nobody would expect. So bad. I want him to bring in Shohei Ohtani to pitch in the 7th inning or something like that in relief, just to annoy everyone so bad. It would be so Rays to have such a versatile tool to play around with. I don't think it's going to happen. I do want it to happen, and I think this is a big year for the Rays in terms of 40-man roster crunch and the amount of guys they could potentially lose. So if they could put together some kind of package that would help that kind of process, maybe they'd think about it. I think odds are long. I tweeted about it saying, if Ohtani comes to the Rays, I will fly from the UK to the Trop to go watch him play. And that costs like £1,000, but I will do that if that happens. So that's where I'm at. I don't think it will happen. It's not impossible, though. I think it's more possible than some teams, for sure.
It feels like it's the most possible that it's ever going to be right now.
Yeah, now I want it to happen. Shoot.
I know. Well, and the image in my mind is of Shohei Ohtani on the mound on a Friday night in the Devil Rays jersey, which I don't like. That would be a beautiful sight. I'm going to come at this from the Angels' perspective here for just a quick second. If you're the Los Angeles Angels, you have been mired in mediocrity despite having the 2 best players in baseball on your team. You're now in a situation where you are in danger of losing potentially the best player in all of baseball, and maybe the best player that has ever played baseball, for nothing if you do not re-sign him. And it is being made very clear that Shohei Ohtani wants to win. So if you get closer to this trade deadline and you're not in the play, currently they are not in the playoff picture. They're in the picture, but they're not in a playoff spot. And if they do not perform well coming out of the break and they kind of fall down a little bit, I think as the Angels ownership, you have got to get something for him. You cannot lose the best player in baseball for nothing. That is an organizational blunder. That is, I think at that point you got to blow the whole team up. If you cannot get something for Shohei and you lose him for nothing, you've just squandered the ultimate opportunity. And I think your team is bust. You got to restart. You got to trade Trout, trade everybody who you can, and just start over, because like that, it would be maybe the biggest organizational blunder of the modern baseball era. Like, I don't know how you could possibly do that. So with that in mind, I think the Angels, when it comes to this deadline, they got to make a hard decision. If they don't feel confident that they can, make a run and get to the playoffs and prove to Shohei that he can win there, you've got to get something for him. You got to get something for him. You got to be able to rebuild when he leaves, because their options are he leaves and you have nothing to rebuild with except for Mike Trout, who is often on the injured list, or you lose Trout, but you get a huge prospect package back to build your future around. And I think in my opinion, this is, and some people are, a lot of people are saying that they're going to do whatever they can to keep him. I think he's gone. I don't know where he's going to go, but I just think the Angels cannot lose him for nothing. And I think as they get close to that deadline, and the prospect of losing Shohei Ohtani for nothing is going to be too much for them to handle, and they're going to trade him. I would love to see him come to the Rays. I think the point that we have a deep enough farm system to accommodate that is a good one. I think we are one of the few teams that would not be wrecked. I think you're 100% right that we would not be wrecked by trading for Shohei. It would still hurt. You're going to lose a lot of guys we've been really attached to. You're going to lose a lot of guys you're really attached to, and you might lose someone in the major league roster you're really attached to too.
Todd
you
Bradley's
might lose. Taj Bradley's gone. Mead's gone. Camino is probably gone. Like, you're going to lose a lot of guys. Like a William. We were trading him, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought we traded him.
We traded him, but you know what? Like, guys that you think these are guys we're putting a lot of our future on. They're going to be gone. That being said, Shohei Ohtani has the potential to, in half a season, accrue the WAR of a excellent player's full season. So at the end of the day, what you're getting for that is significant, and it could be the piece that can guarantee the win for the Rays to get to the World Series and win it. Because a team that has Tyler Glasnow, Shane McClanahan, Shohei Ohtani, and Zach Eflin is probably the toughest rotation in all of baseball. And in a postseason contest, and then when you get to a postseason contest where you only need 3 starters, now it's just overkill at that point. And you're looking at a lineup. Yeah, I mean,
who would you run? If we get in the playoffs and we have Ohtani on our team, hypothetically, what 3 are you running?
I am running probably Shane, Tyler, and Ohtani, only because I want to have Ohtani at his best from a hitter's perspective for the first 2 games, and then let him pitch. Although honestly, he's
better when he pitches.
There's that statistic where he's better when he pitches. So maybe you pitch him in the first game. I would probably let Shane pitch the first game, but like at that point, it's like, I mean, which do you want? Do you want the most devastating curveball in baseball and a lively fastball, or do you want an insane splitter and a 101 at the eyeballs every single time you go out? Like, it's a murderer's row of a starting rotation. It would be beautiful to watch. The question is kind of going to be if are the Angels going to delude themselves or not? I think that's what it's going to come down to. Are they going to delude themselves into thinking that they can find a way to, get to a winning perspective to keep him around, or are they going to realize that we're not going to make it, we're not going to win? Trout being injured, I think, really hurts them a lot. Like, when I saw that Trout was out, I'm like, I think the chances of Shohei leaving just went up exponentially.
Yeah.
So, sure. I mean, I think that's where we're at with it. I would love to see Ohtani come to the Rays. I'd love to see Pat fly over here for that game. And if you, viewer at home, would like to help us pay for that plane ticket, you can go to shop.rblr.com right now and buy a T-shirt. We got some amazing stuff. There's some new designs. We're coming out. We've come up with a couple new designs this season, which are awesome. If you'd like to help get Pat over here to watch Shohei Ohtani pitch in the Trop on Randyland Friday, Devil Ray Friday, get over here, get over to the shop. Give us a little bit of your money. Get 10% off with promo code FLAPPY, FLAPPY. Get some percentage off, but give us some money so we can get Pat over here to watch the best player in baseball right now pitch for the Rays, if that were to come to fruition.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a great ad.
Yeah, thank you. I was pretty happy with it. So that was sort of a pie in the sky trade situation. Like that would be awesome if we got Shohei Ohtani. I'd like to hear a little bit of what are some more realistic trade options. Zach, do you have anybody that you have as a prospective trade target for the Rays going in the second half?
Yeah, so I don't have like a trade package built up for him yet, but Michael Lawrenson from Detroit, he's someone that I've liked. If I'm not mistaken, he's the one that hit the home run in Cincinnati right after his dad had passed away. So I've been a huge fan of him for years. Kind of forgot about him for a minute, and then he came back like in Detroit, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was still playing. He's still relatively young. I think that he would be a great stopgap piece for us to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? God, I haven't talked baseball in a while. To kind of secure our starting pitching rotation towards the back end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Lorenzen a lot. He's got, like you mentioned, the two-way capabilities at the beginning of his career, and now he's kind of solidified himself as a pretty decent starter. He was an all-star for the Tigers. I mean, he's got a pretty good resume. Definitely wouldn't mind the Rays trading for him, that's for sure. Eduardo Rodriguez is another Tiger that potentially has been floated around a lot. But of course, we're all going to name these names, and then the Rays are going to trade for some Joe Blow we've never heard of, and then it's going to have to be a Cy Young candidate. But no, for all jokes aside, I think a reunion would be kind of fun. Drew Smiley from the Cubs. He's been pitching pretty well this season, and he's on, I believe, an expiring deal. I know it'd be a bit of a rental, but he'd also be a significant amount cheaper. You know, he wouldn't necessarily cost the farm. They'd maybe – I think the Rays have to make a decision with Jonathan Aranda because he's just too good to keep in AAA. And I think that Aranda for Smiley would be pretty enticing for the Cubs. Although they need pitching, so I don't know if they would take another position player, but that's kind of semantics. I still think Aranda's a great prospect, and they would take that deal. So Smiley, I know the popular answer would probably be Stroman from the Cubs, but Stroman's really, really good, and I don't know if they trade him. I think he's got a 2-year deal, so I think they might wait another year to trade him, or if they do trade him, it'd have to be for a pretty significant package, which you don't want to overpay for anyone if you're the Rays because – you know, they don't do that. So I think Smiley's my pick for sure.
I really like all of those picks. I really like Erod in particular, Eduardo Rodriguez. Really, if you want to go wild, if you want to go really crazy, the Padres aren't doing so well. And there's a guy whose deal expires that has worked well with Kyle Snyder in the past. Blake Snell is got really good peripherals this year. He's struggling with command. And where have we heard that recipe before? Oh, no, a pitcher with great stuff that's struggling with command. Oh, why did we get the horse whisperer, Kyle Snyder, in to bring him in? He's won a Cy Young with the Rays. I don't know if it's the best fit, really, but he can give you some innings. He can give you some quality innings. And he knows the organization.
Yes.
And especially if, hopefully this doesn't happen, but especially if we lose a guy, let's say if McClanahan's back issues persist, Blake Snell might be the guy that slots into that playoff rotation spot that we might need to fill in that scenario. And he's a rental, so it's low stakes. And if the Padres stay losing, they'll probably want to offload him. So it's a weird one. It's probably not the greatest fit ever, but it's there. It's a thing to chew on.
Is Blake Snell still mad at Kevin Cash? I think that's what it comes down to on that one. That would actually be a really fun reunion. It would be a little redemption arc. Maybe we get a Blake Snell Game 6 performance in the World Series where he does not get pulled, and we get to see him go out there and pitch. That would be kind of a fun reunion. I like that one. Some really good stuff out there. I love the Stroman is like. That would be my dream. I would love Stroman. I love the way he pitches. He's a fantastic teammate. He's a great player. I would love Stroman. My like more reasonable pick is one that I've teased a little bit on Twitter is Brady Singer from the Kansas City Royals. It's a guy who I think fits the bulk guy, the innings eater, the Chad innings eater, as Foolish Baseball put it. I think he fits that mold perfectly. He go out there, he can get you some innings. He's gonna give up a couple runs, but I think he's got some peripherals that I think if you, like we said, with Kyle Snyder gets in there and can tweak a couple things. He's got his spin rates. The way they're using him, I don't think is the right way. The pitches in the pitch mix he's throwing, I don't think is correct. His spin leads to some different pitches than what he's currently throwing. I may do a breakdown on him later if there's any buzz on him coming to the Rays. I might do a bit of more of a breakdown on him. But I think there's some potential to fix him a little bit. And I think he'd be a great innings eater for the team, and it will further my Florida Gators agenda, which I'm always looking to further. That was my biggest disappointment from the Rays draft. We could talk a little bit of draft too. My biggest disappointment from the Rays draft is we didn't pick any Gator players, but that's okay. So that's my pick. I'm not surprised that all of us are throwing out pitching names, because I think it's very clear that the pitching is where we would upgrade. I don't really know there's anywhere in the lineup to put someone we would trade for. Like, again, if you trade for Shohei, you'll make room in the lineup. But if we're starting all of our guys who we consider our starters, I don't really know that there's anywhere you would upgrade in the lineup. I mean, maybe you guys have a different opinion than me, but I don't really feel like there's anywhere in the lineup where there's a need to upgrade.
I'm going to throw something out there.
You go.
Sorry, go. Yeah, sorry. I just have a weird take. Trading Brandon Lau, how do we feel about that? Because he's had some really productive years, and I just think that if they want to make a decision on Jonathan Aranda, then he could maybe fill that left-handed spot, like the left-handed bat slot that Brandon Lau occupies. I think there are plenty of teams who would trade pitching for Brandon Lau. I just look at the Joey Gallo trade with the Dodgers and the Yankees last year, and I know that Brandon Lau is better than Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo was awful last year, so I'm not trying to compare the two. But I don't know. I feel like they could maybe get something for him, or maybe even a 3-team deal where they get Brandon Lau to a contender, and a contender sends prospects combined with the Rays to another team who trades pitching to the Rays. There could be something like that could happen. So I'd love to hear y'all's takes on that.
So I'm trying to do this being a realistic Rays fan. Okay. Brandon Lau has, as far as putting up 39 home runs, he's never had more than 17 before that or after that. He had that breakout season one time. I know that defensively he at one point was very good. I think that he is one of the – God, I'm going to get hate for it. I think that he's one of the more overrated stars, especially for the Rays. I don't think that he's as good as we want him to be, or we view him as, but not that he's not a great baseball player. I think he's a good baseball player. I just don't think he's up there with where we where we have kind of lifted him up to as Rays fans because of the 39 home run season. But I do think that depending on how he starts the second half of the season, it almost makes him tradable.
I mean, the Rays will entertain anything. We've learned that in the past. And I think we're entering that kind of territory similar to the Austin Meadows kind of territory where we were like, well, they could trade him if they really want to, but only if they see the right deal. And we got the right deal for Paredes with Meadows. I think now would be a bad time to trade Brandon Lau, just because I think his value's low. He's been injured. He's been injured, and he's been on a rough kind of go of form. Maybe over the offseason, they may entertain offers. And I was about to say, if there was one place that I would look in the lineup is someone that maybe might be a more reliable bat at second base over Taylor Walls if Brandon Lau stays injured. But that's again just picking at straws. I wouldn't go crazy about that either. Yeah, Brandon Lau. I really like Brandon Lau, but yeah, it's been a while since he's been really good. Mm-hmm. So it's a tough case when Aranda's doing so well. What do you think, Zach?
The thing to think about when you look at Brandon Lau is what he does that does not show up on the stat sheet, and when you look at the way that pitchers attack a lineup, if you know that you have a threat to launch every single time that he is up to bat, it affects the way you pitch the game differently. The Rays are very blessed, and they have a lot of guys who have been doing that this season. However, I do not think that it is a coincidence that Brandon Lau gets hurt early in the month of June. When you look at the Rays' performance after he got hurt, the amount of runs they were scoring compared to how much they were scoring in the first half went down. They started scoring less after Brandon Lau got hurt. I was trying to find if I could quickly bring the stat up. Maybe I'll post it on Twitter after the episode if I can pull the stat together. But they started averaging less runs when Brandon Lowe left. They still were winning some games, but they started averaging less runs. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because when you have to contend with Brandon Lowe in the lineup, it affects the way you pitch to the other hitters, and it gives them more opportunities. Because when you watch the way that he gets pitched to, you can see that the pitchers are using some of their best pitches on him, and then that gives some opportunities to the other guys around him in the lineup. When you look at him from a trade candidate perspective, I love Brandon Lowe. I wouldn't want to trade him, but I especially don't think it's a good time to trade him now, because his value to the Rays is greater than his value to other teams.
For
I
sure.
don't believe other teams, and there's some that may be able to discern his value, but I don't know that they would get the value that they would like for him if they were going to move on from him, because he's been injured, and because he is even before he was injured, he has not had the best start to the season yet. I think if the trade deadline were in the end of August or the end of September, I think maybe, or the end of September is what I meant to say. Then maybe you'd be in a different spot, because I think Brandon Lowe is going to put together a really good second half, and there may be some opportunity to trade him at that point.
For sure.
But I just don't think he's a good trade chip right now. I do think if they were putting together a package, he might be something that they would, a package for like a superstar, like a Shohei Ohtani. Putting someone like Brandon Lowe in that package is probably going to be necessitated, and I could see that happening potentially because he's one of the he is on a very team friendly deal, so he would be an attractive trade piece if we were going to move him from that perspective. But I just don't know that he's at his maximum value right now, and it's not really like the Rays to trade pieces when they're not at their maximum value. I see it to be far more likely we move on from someone like Harold Ramirez, who I think is, you cannot have Harold Ramirez and Jonathan Aranda on the same team for longer than 2 or 3 games realistically, because they are both an eyesore. Like every time I get a lineup and I see Harold Ramirez in the field, I just know that I'm going to turn off the game whenever the ball leaves the infield. Because there's a couple of games where he was in the, especially if he's in the infield, it's usually whatever, it's fine. But when they put him in the outfield, I can't watch. It's especially because we have so many great defensive outfielders when he goes out there, and it's and maybe this is being mean, but I just don't want to see it. I don't want to watch it. So you cannot have Harold Ramirez and Jonathan Aranda on the field on the same roster. So I feel like the more likely move is Harold gets moved, maybe as a package for some pitching, and that could clear the runway for Aranda, or Meade, who just had a 5-hit game last night, by the way. He's playing fantastically. He's going to be, they got to find a spot for him soon. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that scenario, because that guy is playing his way onto the roster the same way Aranda is. So you're going to have to find a spot for him eventually too. Nothing's impossible. The Rays will trade anyone if they give them the right price. I just don't think that the price they would be getting for Lowe right now is going to be what his value is at the moment.
For sure. Yeah. And I definitely don't disagree. His value's not at his max. He can't disagree with that point. But I do love the potential of his position just makes his production so enticing for teams. I feel like his upside is huge for the position that he plays. Because second base, Marcus Semien, Jose Altuve, and then there just aren't very many great hitting second basemen, especially power guys. So it's kind of an exciting little opportunity to trade for a power hitting second baseman. But again, y'all are making some great points. His value is pretty low compared to what it has been in the past.
So with his value being lower than it's been before, how do we not know that this is the highest he'll be again as far as value wise? Because he's been hurt every single season since his 39 home run season. There's been an extended stint on the IL almost every season. I don't know about the COVID season. I'm not sure. But other than that season, every other season, he's had a long stint on the IL. He's continuously kind of digressed in hitting as far as power. So this might be the highest value he's going to have, I think, is kind of the way that I look at it.
To counter that, I think the back is the main issue. I worry about whether the back is going to persist or not. I think otherwise, there's lots of good signs about Brandon Lowe returning to form. He's still hitting the ball really hard whenever he does hit the ball, and he's still drawing a lot of walks. He's still got a good seeing eye. So the swing and miss is the issue, and whether that's related to his back, I don't know. But if he can just like cut down on that swing and miss just a little bit, like his ground ball percentage is still going down. He's still hitting more fly balls. He's still hitting the ball hard. So there's loads of good signs that he's not broken. It's just how he can make more contact. And I'm hoping it's related to his back being off.
Right. I think, like the swing and miss thing is tough because it's like when Brandon Lau has a good at bat, it's fantastic. He looks amazing, one of the best hitters in baseball. But when he's not, which is kind of a lot, he looks like one of the worst. And he contribute some absolutely just dog water swings. Like he's just like the low and away slider from a lefty. I mean, I get it. Lefty on lefty is tough, but man, he just chases those sliders in the dirt seemingly every at bat. But like Pat said, the back is a huge issue. But I don't know, man. It seems like Zach said, his value might not go up because he might continue to get injured. But I don't know. I feel like a team like maybe the Dodgers or something would just love to have a Brandon Lau in their lineup, and then it would allow, like Zach, the other Zach said, it would allow Aranda to come in. Maybe I know he doesn't play defensively super well, so maybe you don't want to put him in second. But Curtis Mead, I mean, I freaking love that guy. I would hate for them to trade him in any trade package. So being able to call him up might kind of galvanize this lineup a little bit more. Not that they necessarily need it, but it almost be like trading for someone. So
has he ever played second base, Curtis Mead? Does he ever play, get innings at second?
He does in MLB The Show, but I don't know if he does in real life.
I don't think so. I mean, I think if that was the case, they would shift Paredes more to second base because he has played second and he's fine. So you could do that. You could shift him to second and then have Mead play third a little bit more. My biggest issue with trading Brandon Lau right now is if you trade Brandon Lau, your team is going to be worse, in my opinion, for the rest of the season. Because as good as Aranda and Mead have been at the AAA level, Aranda had like 1 or 2 hits when he came up after all that and like ballyhooedness. He looked like just another guy. I mean, and he'll improve and he'll get better, but it's not going to be this year. So if Aranda and Mead come up, they're going to be fine. They're going to be good. I think next year they could be really good, but there is no. I would be very the percentage chance that Mead and Aranda are going to be better for the rest of the season than Brandon Lau is low, in my opinion. So if you trade him, you're going to make your offense worse. And maybe you improve your pitching and that would be great. But I think you can improve your pitching without making your offense worse. And that's how I view it, because I don't think this is a season in which unless you are getting a significant upgrade in one aspect, you make an aspect worse unless you absolutely have to. Because I don't think that there's not a really good replacement for him at the minor league level. You would be having to shift someone who's already, on the major league level around. I think Paredes is a phenomenal third baseman. I don't really want to move him. I think he's great there. I don't really feel the need to move him. I think it'd be a defensive downgrade if you had to put Mead out there. Because as you know, I love Mead. He's a fantastic player, but I don't know that he is as good a defensive third baseman right now as Paredes is, and who's already not the best. I think he's very good and he has potential to get better, but he's not a perfect defensive third baseman. Walls is the best defensive third baseman on the team. He's not the best hitter. So I think you shift some people around. I also wonder what it would do for the team's chemistry to trade one of the longest tenured guys on the team in the middle of the season where you're trying to win a World Series and you have a really good chance to do that. Trading a guy like that, I don't know that would be the best decision. All the points you guys are making are definitely valid. I just feel like it does not benefit the Rays right now to trade him. I would think it would make more sense to trade a guy like Brandon Lau in the offseason than trading him midseason. If you're going to move him, I would move him in the offseason. But I don't think the Rays are going to do that because I just think that you make your team worse. And unless you're going to really make another aspect of your team better by trading him, I don't think it makes sense to move on from him at this time.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking more in the perspective of really upgrading their pitching if they did trade him. But I'm with you. You don't want to make your offense worse, and I'm with you. Curtis Mead and whoever, or Jonathan Aranda, they definitely aren't going to hit you nearly as many home runs as Lau. They're not going to give you that big power. So I definitely get it.
And believe me, I would love to see Aranda and Mead. I would especially love to see Mead. I think Mead is a doubles machine in the works. Like, I think that dude is just going to come up and hit doubles. Like, I think he may lead the Rays in doubles when he gets up to the major league level. So that I would love to see it. But this is all really good conversations to have because we're talking about how can we get our team closer to winning the World Series.
For sure,
So,
that's the goal.
And that's the goal, and that's a really exciting thing. So as we're kind of wrapping things up here, Pat, can you give me your one thing that you'd love to see from the Rays that could help them get to the World Series in the second half?
Wrapping up the division as early as possible. Like we're talking like 12th of September. We need the Orioles to just we need to sweep them this coming week. And we need to push them down far enough so that mid-September, the division's in the bag. We know we're getting the wild card bye. And then we can start resting and really inning management our top guys, getting people off the field a bit earlier. Because last year, and arguably in 2021 too, the teams were good, but they were absolutely gassed by the time the postseason rolled around. So I just want us to be done, rested in time for the postseason and secure that wild card bye, because we could go up against the Royals, we could go up against the A's in a best of 3, and we might lose. It's too random. So let's maximize our chances, secure the best of 5, rest our guys is the main thing.
Yeah, that's a good one, Pat. Definitely would love to see them secure a 1 seed for sure. Because like you said, the best of 3 is such a crapshoot. Like I love the inclusion of 6 teams, but good Lord, it's just, yeah. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. One thing that I'd love to see for the Rays is if Brandon Lau hits 15 to 20, if they keep him and he hits 15 to 20 home runs in the second half, I think they secure the 1 seed. They might win the World Series. I think if he gets hot in the second half, he could literally just carry that offense. Not that it needs to be carried, but he could definitely just bring some energy into that lineup, because let's face it, the lineup was not great towards the end of the first half. Like Zach Dab mentioned, they were struggling. They were definitely not scoring the way they were at the beginning of the year. So if he gets hot, it's GG. I don't think that anyone touches the Rays in the AL East.
If Brandon Lau gets hot and hits 15 home runs in the second half of the season, I'll shave my damn head.
We're getting clip that.
Yeah, it's not happening. He has not been that. He's not been that guy for a little bit, I don't think. But I do think that he plays a big part in the potential success of this team. I think that he needs to step it up if we want a serious shot at a World Series, which I think we all do. So it goes with him. And then I think a big thing, aside from the rest, I think Pat nailed it on the head. That's the most important thing, is being able to call up some of our younger guys to fill in for our starters, because we've already clinched a playoff spot. That's the key. But I think another important thing is getting a trade for a starting pitcher because honestly, we are – Rasmussen's out for the season. Hell, he's out for half of next season. Springs is out for the season. If we need one more solid guy, I think that Taj has been doing a great job, but he's a rookie. This is going to be probably the most he's ever pitched in a season. So to see him, I don't want to see him join that list of injuries. So I wouldn't mind to see kind of a fifth starter that can actually go deep into a game, 5 innings, 4 or 5 innings. I think that's kind of key for me in the success in the future. In the future.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing the Rays need to do in the second half is they need to buy about 5 of those Zorb ball things. You've seen those things, those Zorb ball things. And then as soon as Shane, Tyler, Wander, and Randy and Yandy walk off the field, they just go into the Zorb ball and they just roll around in those things for the entire rest of the season. That's all they do. Then we feed them through a tube through the Zorb ball, and then they come back out on the field and they play. If they stay healthy, they're winning the World Series. I said it at the beginning of the year. I've not changed my opinion. If this team stays healthy throughout the rest of the year, it's a big ask because you've got some guys with injury history on here. But if this team, as currently constructed, stays healthy, they're winning the World Series. Because I do think Brandon Lau 1,000,000% could hit 15 home runs between now and the end of the All-Star break. I think I would actually be willing to say that I think that is going to happen. That he's going to hit at least 15 home runs before the end of the season. I think you're going to have better production from those guys. I think Tyler Glasnow is going to round back into form fully. We're starting to see that he's going to even more fully run back into form. I think there's a 7-inning, 14 strikeout performance in the very near future. Maybe even today. But like, I think that, we're gonna see the best from some of those guys. And if they just everybody stay healthy, knock on all the wood in your vicinity, this team is going to win the World Series. And I think that's the one thing that I would just really love to see happen is just nobody get hurt, please. I don't feel like I'm asking for too much. Just nobody get hurt. All right. Well, I mean, this has been awesome. Is there any other stuff from the first half you guys wanted to chat about, or any other news that I'm missing? Oh, really quickly. So Shane is back from we'll do some injury updates really fast. Shane is back. He should be fine. Kittredge is getting very close to a rehab assignment, which is awesome to see. Would love that bullpen help. I believe Fleming has started throwing a little bit, which is good news. Colby White returned from his weird 3-week disappearance and is back, and he's also potentially approaching. He might go to Montgomery first and then Durham. I don't know, but he's also coming back and should be good. We did the big blow from the injury perspective. I believe it was announced over the week was that Rass is gone for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
that was a really tough blow. I think that really accentuated it. We've kind of been talking a lot about how they're looking to get some pitching. I think losing Rass almost like they will trade for some pitching, especially now that we don't have Rasmussen. Some pitching will be getting traded for. Tough to see, tough to lose him. Hope to see him back next season. It's going to be, one of these years we're going to have our dream rotation all be healthy at the same time and all pitch together. It'll happen one day. But yeah, those are some quick injury updates. I think that's mostly it for the injuries. And let's just say, is there any other injuries or general news that came over the last week? Anyone can think of?
I mean, we touched on it, the Ben Gamble trade, but that's not really interesting news. Like it is.
It did happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It did.
Yeah, no, aside from that, 24 home runs is a mark for Lau. If he hits 24 home runs, I'll shave my head for the show.
Clip it, book it. I'm coming back. We're gonna do it on air during the episode. We're gonna
Michaela shave it for me.
Perfect. I love it. All right. Well, I think unless anyone else has anything else to mention, I think that might be it for us today. Thank you all for coming on. This is a fantastic show. You guys were awesome. Thanks for coming on, guys. All of you, thank you for watching and listening. Please subscribe to everything on our socials. Follow us on all the social medias. Stream us on all the platforms. And raise up.
Raise up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.